Hello everyone! Last year I did a video where I went over my top 10 model horse purchases of 2019, and you guys seemed to enjoy that video, so we're doing it again this year, even though it is kind of late as we are a good deal into 2021 now, but better late than never, I guess. It was difficult deciding which models to put in my top 10, and then which order they should go in was also difficult. I decided to make it a little easier on myself by only including models that were released in 2020. So without further ado, here are my top 10 model horse purchases of 2020, starting off with number 10. Apparition. Apparition was the traditional scale Halloween horse for 2020. This model has a lot of things going for it that made it the perfect addition to my collection. First off, he's a Halloween horse. He's purple, which is my favorite color. He's on the spirit mold, which I absolutely love. And he has a really fun, creepy Halloween face. I love collecting all of the Halloween horses, and this guy is probably up there as one of my favorite Halloween models Breyer has ever done. So of course, I'm going to have to include him on this list. Number 9. High Tide. Another decorator for this list is High Tide. This model is the only classic scale model on this list, but it was just too pretty not to include. I adore how the blue clearwear makes the mane and tail look like waves, and how there can be a wide variety of the silver splattering on the model. I love this model so much, in fact, that I plan to order more of them. Number 8. Olympia. Olympia is one of the special runs from the Breyer Collector Club event Seattle Soiree, which took place in May 2020. Unfortunately, the event could only be online, so we couldn't actually go to the actual event and enjoy things, but Breyer did at least still sell these models. While the Marabella mold isn't one of my top favorite molds, it is a mold that I've always liked. This model is just so pretty with her Perlano coloring. She reminds me of a beautiful beachside sunset or just a beautiful sandy beach. I also just love the Seattle Soiree models because of their connection to Washington State. Well, I was originally thinking I was going to sell this girl right away after I got her. Right now, I just can't part with her. She is too gorgeous. Number 7. Altanai. Or however you say his name. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. But this is the first release in the Premier Club 2020, and therefore also the first release on a brand new sculpture. This handsome fellow is made to represent an Akhal-Teke, which I think is a very interesting horse breed. The mold itself is so dynamic and spirited, and I love this sooty buckskin coloring. Additionally, he does remind me a lot of one of the Turkomans in Red Dead Redemption 2, which might be one of the reasons I like him so much. I did not join the Premier Club in 2020, so I purchased this guy secondhand, but it was totally worth it. Number 6. Tamu. The Wild Animal series web special this year was 2 foals called Tamu and Cha, however you say his name. I'm not going to get it right, I'm sorry everybody. But for this list, I put down Tamu in particular, who is the foal painted to look like a young bongo. Bongos are a type of ungulate found in Africa that have striking coloring and magnificent horns. I just love that they used a bongo's coloring on this model. To make another weird video game association, I've always associated bongos with the game Zoo Tycoon 2, as that's where I first learned about this animal. Not only does this model help complete my Wild Animal series collection, it's got an awesome design, and also just has a lot of happy things I can associate with it. Number 5. Cheesecake, matte version. Cheesecake was one of the BreyerFest 2020 store specials, and while there are some minor aspects of the paint job I wish they would have changed, such as giving the model a pink muzzle instead of a peachy colored one, it's hard not to be fascinated with the interesting coloring on this model. It's really not every day you see a Cremello Pinto. This mold is another one that's not one of my top favorites per se, but I do really like it and I love the dynamics of it and the big floofy mane, tail, and feathers. Number 4. Duwamish. Duwamish is another Seattle Soiree event special run model. and yet another model that has some very striking coloring and patterns. He is named after one of the Native American tribes in Washington. This is another model then I can't help but associate with Washington and certain places in particular in Washington that I love and currently really miss visiting. So there's just a lot of reasons for me to love this model, from his name, from the fact he came from the Seattle Soiree event, his awesome color. This model also completes my Dundee conga, which I didn't intend to have a complete conga of this mold, but it is still pretty neat to have this model completed and be able to say I have this complete conga. So it was hard not to put this model up pretty high on the list. Number 3. Benelli Matte Version. This is another one of the BreyerFest 2020 store specials. While the braided mane and tail version of the Shenandoah mold isn't my favorite compared to the loose mane and tail version, I do think the braided version suits this model very well. I just love these beautiful purple and silver bobs, and I just love the intricate pattern on this model's coat. I really love how he looks overall, which is what led him to being so high up on this list. He doesn't really have any more deeper meanings like some of the other models. I just really like how he looks. Number 2. Fabio. Fabio is a 2020 Collector Club web special that we actually first saw in 2019. He is one of the models that Collector Club members voted on for which should become a Collector Club web special in 2020. Well, I liked all 3 versions of this model sporting the same color. I'm really happy that the Duende mold ended up being used. This is currently the only model I actually have on this mold, but I'm loving this mold, and I of course really love the coloring on this model. Splash Pintos are one of my favorite horse colors, and this model is a dun on top of it. I really just love everything about this model, and he was honestly very, very close to making the number 1 spot on this list. This model is probably also up there as being one of my top favorite models in general of my whole collection. I just love him that much. And now let's move on to the final model. Number 1. Nirvana. I decided to give the number 1 spot on this list to yet another Seattle Soiree special run model. This particular model is a black blanket Appaloosa on the Idicus, or Idicus, however you say his mold name. I don't know how to pronounce anything, I swear. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing things. But this is the braided mane and tail version of that mold. I don't know why, but I really like the design of this model. It is just very appealing overall. I think part of the reason I like this model so much also is because it reminds me a little bit of my quote-unquote dream horse from when I was younger. When I first started getting into horses, my dream horse was a sporty gray extended blanket Appaloosa, and while this guy is not that exact same coloring, he's just similar enough that it kind of reminds me of when my younger me had that dream horse. I also put this model in the top spot because, again, of that association with the Seattle Soiree and Washington. He reminds me a lot of the rocky beaches of the San Juan Islands and even of the Pacific Northwest orcas that swim past. I love the San Juan Islands and I really am missing them right now. But at least I have this beautiful model to remind me of the places I wish I could be right now. That will conclude my top 10 Breyer models of 2020. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite model horse, or any purchase in general, of 2020 was. Was it a BreyerFest model, a Breyer regular run, or maybe it was something else you collect? Thank you for watching, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!